Hey there, scientists. Today, we are talking about how the ocean shapes the land. Your goal today is that you can describe how the ocean shapes the land and you can explain the processes of erosion and deposition. Last time we were together, we started talking about what we remember from times we've been at the beach. And when we've been at the beach and we've seen the life that lives in the ocean and we understand those things that are happening, the question we want to ask today is, how do waves move? Waves move toward the shore and then break on the beach or cliffs along the shore. So if the beach you observed was sandy, how did the waves affect the sand on the beach? You probably saw that the waves caused the sand to churn about or mix up or move back and forth. Maybe you went surfing on the beach, maybe you used bodyboards and those things, or you saw people surfing or skimboards on the water, and those are being hit by the waves while people are out there in the ocean and enjoying that water. But that constant flow where the waves come in and then pull back out is part of the process that we're going to talk about today. So as we jump into the reading, what I want you to think about is how we can identify ways that the ocean shapes the land. Waves and the ocean currents are forces that shape landforms along the coast. Ocean currents are steady flows of ocean water. Moving ocean water helped shape the landform you see in this photograph of Tahiti. So this image we're looking at right here is Tahiti. Now, Tahiti is an island in the central South Pacific Ocean. So here would be the United States. It is in the central South Pacific Ocean. In many coastal areas, waves crash onto the shore, wearing down cliffs and breaking rocks apart. The force of the waves may carve rocks into strange shapes. Waves and the sediments they carry eventually grind rocks into tiny bits of sand. In the process of erosion, waves and currents pick up sediment and move them away. In the process of deposition, sand and other sediments are laid down in a new place. Deposition builds up on sandy islands and beaches. So here again, we're looking at these islands of Tahiti, and what is it that we notice in this picture here? Do we see where there's ocean currents that are causing erosion and deposition? Corals formed this barrier reef in Tahiti. The white sand on the reef comes from the coral sediments that were deposited by ocean waves. So in this image, which of Earth's systems are interacting in the photo of the coast? We see the hydrosphere, which is the ocean water, the geosphere, which is the sand and the land, and the biosphere, because we know that there's corals that are formed here in this reef. So we know that there's multiple spheres interacting here. In this image, we can see the ocean surf continues to shape these cliffs on the Oregon coast. So which spheres can we infer are interacting here? The hydrosphere, which is going to be the ocean water, and the geosphere, the rocky cliffs. In both our picture of the Oregon coast and Tahiti, we can see the wind in the atmosphere is causing waves in the water. So we can identify all four spheres interacting in this scenario. So if we go back to our text, what is an ocean current? Ocean currents are steady flows of ocean water. Ocean currents are like rivers within the ocean that move water from place to place. How do waves and currents affect the formation of landforms? Currents and waves carry sediments from one place to another. Waves break apart the rock into tiny pieces. They carve the rock into cliffs along the coast. So the sand and the sediments and the coral are getting broken apart and they're being like moved back and forth. Erosion and deposition are part of this process. Erosion, in the process of erosion, waves and currents pick up sediments and move them away. In the process of deposition, sand and other sediments are laid down in a new place. So how might erosion and deposition affect the shape of the beach? Waves could stir up the sand and the currents could move along the beach. This is erosion. Eventually the currents would drop the sand in a new place. This is deposition. The result would be that one area of a beach would be reduced and another area would be built up. As you move forward, you are going to be asked, what is the difference between erosion and deposition? So you have to be able to identify what is erosion and what is deposition and how are those two things different? How can you define them? And then you're going to be asked to analyze. The strong winds of a large storm increase the size of ocean waves. How might these larger waves affect the amount of erosion on a sandy beach? As a critical thinker and as a critical thinking scientist, I know that those questions will be very manageable for you and very easy for you to understand, because your goal is that you can describe how the ocean shapes the land and you can explain the process of erosion and deposition. And all of these things are happening within the 4 spheres that we have been talking about. Be a critical thinker on this one, analyze well, and I will see you on the next one, scientists.